So when you think about two parallel lines, okay, like my arms right now, right? Two parallel lines, or my arms like this, or my arms like this. Can you tell me what's true of the slope every time? John? It's the same, right? If two lines are parallel, their slope is the same. You're rising and running the same amount, okay? So that first statement says if two non-vertical lines are parallel, then their slopes are equal or the same. The reason they say non-vertical is what is the slope of a vertical line? Undefined. So they don't have a slope, right? So you can't say that. But any two vertical or horizontal lines will always be parallel as well, okay? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You are given lots of points here. Line 1 goes through the first two, line 2 goes through the second two, and we want to know, are they parallel? Now, if you're graphing it, you can count your slope. If you're not graphing it, you would have to plug it into the slope formula to find the slope, okay? So I think I'll probably show you both ways, but I am going to plot all of these on the graph. So line 1, I'm going to do in like this blue-green-ish color. So negative 3, 3. Negative 3, 3 is this point here. And then negative 1, negative 4 is this point here. So you have this line. Okay, line 2 is negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and make sure you're plotting your points appropriately. Some people are moving the wrong direction for different numbers. Negative 1 is one to the left, not one down, right? So this is your X value, this is your Y value. So 2, negative 4 rather, goes 2 to the, what direction? 2 to the right, it's positive, and 4 down, okay? So 2 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4 down is that, and then you draw your line in. Okay, so the question is, are those lines parallel? Check your slope. If I look at the blue one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a negative 7, 1, 2. So that line has a slope of negative 7 over 2, or 3.5. If you want to call it 3.5, that's fine. Fractions are a little nicer with slope, but I'm not super picky there. The second one, same thing. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3. So that's a negative 9, a positive 3. So that slope is down 9 over 3. Well, that reduces to 3. Are those the same slope? No. So are they parallel? No. Okay, so we would say those are not parallel because they have different slopes. If we were not to graph it, actually on this next one, we're just not going to graph it. I'm going to show you, if you don't graph it, how you figure this out. What is the slope formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do x1, y1 and x2, y2. So I'm going to go 2 minus 6 over negative 1 minus a negative 13. So that's plus a positive. So this is negative 4 over 12, which is a negative 1/3. Okay, so that's our first line. Find the slope. Our second line, if I call this x1, y1 and x2, y2, do the same thing. 5 minus 3 over what? Negative 18 minus a negative 12, which is plus 12. So we get 2 over a negative 6, which is a negative 1/3. Okay, are the lines parallel? Yes. We would say yes, they are parallel because they have the same slope. Okay, so parallel lines will have the same slope every single time. Questions on that? Okay. This type of question then. It says, what is the equation of the line? Now, pay attention to this because later in our lesson, this word is going to change, and that changes a lot about the problem. Not everything, but it changes a lot. What is the equation of the line that's parallel to this line, but goes through this point? Okay, so parallel to a line. Let's just start there. What does it mean to be parallel to this? What are we looking at then? Jonathan, the slope. All we care about right now, you guys, is the slope. You can ignore every other piece of this equation. Ignore it. All I want to know is my slope is -3. Okay, now from here, you should be able to tell me what to do. Bradley.
Well, so we know that it has to be y equals -3x plus this, and we know what the starting point is, so the starting point is -8, or the equation be y equals -3x plus -8.
No, but I see what you're doing. It is, you are going to have a -3x, right? I have right now a point and a slope. So put it into point slope form, okay? Y minus what?
Voice control.
I know, I'm working on it. Sorry. I wasn't ignoring. I was just trying to get it back up. There we go. Okay, so your formula for point slope, right? Because we have a point and we have a slope, so put it into point slope. So y minus what? Y minus 8. This is your y1. This is your x1, okay? Y minus 8 equals the slope, -3, times x, what? Plus 1. Minus a -1 is x plus 1. So your answer is y minus 8 equals -3 times x plus 1. Okay? I don't need you to turn that into a different form. I don't need you to solve from there and make it slope-intercept form. That's just extra work. You may leave it in point slope. If you're given a point and a slope, leave it that way, unless I tell you turn it into slope-intercept. Okay? Okay, you try it on this one then. What are you supposed to pull out of this equation if we want to be parallel to it?
Slope.
A slope of 1. Okay, so you have a slope, you have a point, put it into that form. What do you get? Lay that out. While you do that, I'm going to cut this paper out because it is driving me nuts. All right, what did you get? Y plus 3. Okay, so you can put the slope in. You don't technically have to because your slope is 1, so it doesn't change anything. So you can write it like this, and that would be a totally acceptable answer, or you could actually write it like this. And that would be an acceptable answer. That is point slope form because your slope is 1. I like this one just because you're seeing all the pieces, but you don't have to. That's parallels. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. I'm going to do one other thing with this because you'll see it in the homework and I want to make sure that you're clear. Let's say you have, go ahead and just write these two equations down. 3x plus 4y equals 12. And 6x plus 2y equals 6. Okay? They're going to say rewrite in slope-intercept form. And then they're going to say, are they parallel? How do you rewrite an equation in slope-intercept form? What do you have to do? What is slope-intercept? y equals mx plus b, right? Y equals mx plus b. So we want to isolate y. So let's do that with this first one. If I want to isolate y, I'm going to take away the 3x from both sides. So I get 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. What do I do next? How do you isolate y? It's still bad. Divide by 4. So divide, divide, divide. So I get y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. Okay, so this equation is this equation just in a different form, right? Okay, then this one, isolate your y. If we take away 6x and take away 6x, you end up with 2y equals negative 6x plus 6. Now divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2, and you get y equals negative 3x plus 3. The question is, are those two equations parallel? Even though they have the same y-intercept?
No.
Y-intercept doesn't matter, right? Y-intercept is not what we're looking at. If they have the same slope, and technically a different y-intercept, they're parallel. These do not, so we would say they are not parallel because they have a different slope. Okay? Questions on that? Yes, Chaz.
So if they have the same slope but different y-intercepts, they're still parallel?
If they have yes, so if they have the same slope, think about this, y equals 2x plus 4 and y equals 2x plus 4, are those parallel?
No,
Why not?
that's not the same.
They're the same line, right? So that's the situation where they're not parallel. If they have the same of everything, they're just the same line. But otherwise, the same slope and any different y-intercepts, they will be parallel. Okay? Okay, so that's parallel. I'm going to keep going on perpendicular right now because it's very similar and it's just one like little change. So we're just going to keep going. We're going to do the whole thing together. 3AB is the slopes of perpendicular lines. And here's the difference, okay? If two lines are perpendicular, instead of their slopes being the same now, their slopes are actually opposite reciprocals. Do you know what an opposite reciprocal is? Let's say you have a number like 2/3. What would be opposite of 2/3? Negative 2/3. What's the reciprocal of 2/3? 3/2. So your new slope, if it's perpendicular, is a negative 3/2. So you flip it and you either add the negative or take the negative away. So opposite meaning, maybe you want to write this. Opposite meaning you go from positive to negative or vice versa. Reciprocal meaning you flip it. A over B becomes B over A, right? So flip it, change the sign. Okay? And then vertical and horizontals are always perpendicular. Always form a 90 degrees if one is horizontal and one is vertical. Okay, so another problem just like that first one we did with parallels, but now they're asking, are they perpendicular? So let's graph it, and you can take a look. If I'm at negative 4, 2, negative 4, 2 is this point, and then 0, negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's my first line. What is the slope of that line? Negative 3/2, right? A negative 6 and a positive 4, so negative 6/4 is a negative 3/2. Okay, so my orange line has a slope of negative 3/2. Now look at the second line. This one goes through negative 5, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's this line. Okay, what's the slope of that line? Remember, you always, when finding slope, you always go left to right. So if I start on the left point, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to the right. So 6 over 9 is what? 2 over 3. Are they perpendicular? That's actually the example I gave you, huh? 2/3 and -3/2, was it? Yep, sure was. So we would say yes, they are perpendicular because they are opposite reciprocals. Right? We flipped it and we changed the sign. Okay? Okay, but now what if we don't graph it? They give us 2 lines. They give us the points for their lines. How do we tell if they're perpendicular? What do you do with that? I gotta open these blinds, you guys. It's like Dungeness in here for me. I need some sunshine. Much better. Find the slope. Yep. How do you find slope? So we're going to go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So for this one, and again, label them. It's so helpful if you have them labeled x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's -1 minus 7 over 3 minus 2, which is -8 over 1, which is just -8. Okay? Then you do the same thing for this one. x1, y1, x2, y2, plug it into the slope formula. So 7 minus 6 over 8 minus a -2, and you get 1 over 10. Are they perpendicular? Why not? They are not opposite reciprocals. So the book doesn't teach opposite reciprocals. The book teaches that if you multiply the 2 slopes together, they should equal -1. So when you see the answers in the homework, if it says something like they equal -1 or they don't equal -1, that's what they're talking about. I think it's way easier just to flip it and change the sign. So if you want, you can always multiply them together and they should equal -1, and that's another way you can check if they're perpendicular. Okay? Okay. These last couple. Yes. This is the same type of question that we did at the end of that first part of the lesson, the A part of the lesson, but now here's the difference. It says, what is the equation of the line perpendicular to that equation? Again, the only thing we care about is what? The slope. So you are going to ignore everything except for that number. Okay? If my current slope is 1/5, what is my perpendicular slope going to be? -5. You guys are brilliant, right? Flip it over, change the sign. So it was a positive 1/5, flip it and change the sign. Now it's a -5. Okay, what do I do to write an equation of a line if I know the slope and I have a point? Point slope form. Okay, don't worry about changing it into slope intercept. Just leave it in point slope unless you're told to change it. So this is going to be y plus or minus? Plus 4. It's y minus a -4. So y plus 4 equals what? -5 times x minus 15. Yep, here's your x value, here's your y value. That's your answer. Okay? You try this one. Exact same type of problem. If I want to be perpendicular to y equals x plus 3 and go through the point -4, -1, what's my equation going to be? Try it. What'd you get? Good job, you guys. You're so smart. Getting it done. So it's y minus a negative 1, right, is y plus 1. The slope, right now my current slope is 1, right? So the perpendicular slope to 1, the opposite reciprocal, is negative 1. Okay, so you're using this slope, dropping it in here, into point slope form. Good on that? Okay. We're not going to do this one. It's the same question. Here's a point. We're going perpendicular to this through a certain point. We're not. You don't need to do it. You can skip it. Any